You think you're protecting yourself, but what you're really doing is pushing away the love you've been silently begging for. You don't avoid people because you're cold. You avoid them because no one ever made you feel truly safe. And now, safety feels unfamiliar. Connection feels dangerous. So you keep your distance, not because you don't care, but because you've learned that closeness often comes with a cost. You don't mean to push people away. It's not something you plan. You don't wake up thinking, today I will keep everyone at a distance. But still, you do. You close off. You withdraw. You turn your warmth inward and hide it behind a quiet smile or polite conversation. And the world sees you as calm, maybe even distant. But deep inside, you're not cold. You're cautious. You're guarded. Because part of you still doesn't feel safe. Carl Jung believed that the soul protects itself through unconscious defense. That the walls we build are not signs of arrogance or indifference. They are signs of fear. They are relics of something the heart hasn't processed. You weren't born afraid to connect. You became that way through experience, through absence, through betrayal, through love that hurt more than it healed. Somewhere in your story, love became unpredictable. Affection came with conditions. Maybe it was given and taken away depending on your behavior. Maybe it was full of silence, or broken promises, or emotional volatility. And as a child, you didn't understand why it hurt. You just knew it did. And your nervous system learned. Closeness is not safety. Closeness means risk. Closeness means pain. So now, as an adult, you find yourself pulling away when it gets too real. When someone starts to see too deeply into you. When someone offers love without asking you to perform. You hesitate, not because you don't want love, but because you've learned to fear the cost of being seen. And sometimes, you confuse that fear with instinct. You say, I just don't feel a connection. But what you're really feeling is a part of you shutting down. A part of you afraid that if you open the door, it'll be slammed again. That if you show your softness, it will be used against you. That if you let someone in, they'll leave and take pieces of you with them. So you keep people at a distance. You overanalyze, you stay polite, but never vulnerable. You crave closeness, but sabotage it at the same time. You long for intimacy, but build escape routes in your mind. You test people with silence, to see if they'll fight for your presence, and when they don't, you take it as confirmation. See, I was right not to trust. But what if you weren't? What if their distance is just a reflection of the wall you built first? This is the silent cycle. You fear rejection, so you reject yourself preemptively. You fear abandonment, so you create emotional absence before anyone else can. You push love away, not because you don't want it, but because you don't believe it will stay. And beneath it all, you feel lonely. Deeply, quietly, in the moments when no one's watching. You ache to be held, not just physically, but emotionally, to be understood without explanation, to be accepted without editing, to be loved in the places you've spent your whole life hiding. But how can someone love you there if you won't let them see it? This is not self-sabotage, it's self-preservation. You're not broken, you're protecting something sacred. But protection that becomes isolation is no longer protection. It becomes a cage. And eventually, even the strongest soul grows weary of its own armor. That's the moment you begin to awaken, the moment you realize that keeping everyone out hasn't kept you safe, it's kept you alone. That not everyone will hurt you, that not every presence is a threat, that some people are not here to take, but to give, not to wound, but to witness. And it's not about tearing down all your walls overnight, it's about gently opening one window at a time, letting the light in, letting warmth touch the places that have been cold for too long. Because pushing people away might have protected you in the past, but now, it's starving you of connection, of joy, of the kind of love that heals instead of harms. You're not too distant, you're just scared, and that fear deserves compassion, not shame. And sometimes, the worst part isn't the isolation itself, but how familiar it feels. You've lived in this space for so long that you've started to confuse your coping with your identity. You say you're private, you say you don't trust easily, you say you just need space, but deep down, you know it's more than that. It's not that you don't want to connect, it's that you don't know how to feel safe when you do. Because when love has been inconsistent in your life, closeness becomes confusing. You are conditioned to be alert, to sense danger in every connection, to question motives, to scan for signs that someone is about to leave. So you stay ahead of the heartbreak. You leave first. You shut down first. You silence your feelings before they have the chance to be dismissed, and people misunderstand you. They think you're cold. They think you don't care. But inside, you care deeply. You feel more than you show. You long for someone who won't flinch when they see what's beneath the surface. But you've waited so long to be seen that now, when someone tries to look closer, you turn away. Not because you're hiding anything ugly, but because you're protecting something fragile, something beautiful, something that has been mishandled too many times. You learned to self-soothe in silence, to celebrate alone, to cry in private. You became your own safe place, not because you wanted to, but because no one ever showed you how to be safe with someone else. And now, you are exhausted from carrying yourself through every emotional storm alone. But here is what you must remember. You don't have to earn the right to be held. You don't have to prove that your softness is valid. You don't have to stay hidden just to be respected. The right people will not be afraid of your truth. They will not be overwhelmed by your depth. They will not expect you to explain the reasons for your silence. They will sit with you in it. Healing does not mean forcing yourself to open up. It means gently reminding your body that connection is no longer a threat, that love can be steady, that trust can be built, that safety can be felt in the presence of another human being. And when you finally allow yourself to believe that, everything begins to change, not overnight, but with each small decision to stay present, with each moment you choose to stay soft when you want to pull away, with each time you let someone see a part of you that you've been hiding for years. This is how you begin again, not by being fearless, but by allowing fear to exist without letting it decide your future. Before we go deeper, if you've been protecting your heart for so long that closeness feels unsafe, the Jung Method can help you heal that fear from the inside. It's gentle, powerful, and created for women who feel deeply. The link is pinned in the first comment. You've spent so much of your life being careful with your words, careful with your heart, careful with your hopes. You learned early on that being open often led to disappointment. So you adapted. You became someone who observes before trusting, who holds back before reaching out, who tests the waters before jumping in. And that made sense, because back then, caution kept you safe. But what once protected you, now limits you. You hesitate when someone reaches for your hand. You question their intentions. You assume they will leave before they even get close. And it's not because you are cynical. It's because part of you is still bracing for impact, still waiting for the moment everything falls apart. You want to believe in connection. You want to feel held. But a deeper voice inside whispers, be careful. That voice is not your enemy. It is the part of you that lived through emotional absence. It remembers when affection was followed by withdrawal, when comfort was replaced by confusion, when love was present one day and gone the next. It remembers what it felt like to be forgotten. And so, you learned to stay ahead of the loss. You learned that silence could protect you, that distance could give you control, that pretending not to need anyone made the absence hurt a little less. But now, you are older, and you want more. You want depth, you want truth. You want a kind of closeness that does not require constant defense. But here is the paradox. To receive what you long for, you have to release the pattern that kept you safe. You have to begin trusting in small ways, not by opening all your doors at once, but by cracking a window, letting one person see one layer, letting your voice shake and still be heard, letting your eyes soften without needing to look away. Healing begins when you stop running from what you want. When you stop convincing yourself that solitude is the only safe option. When you stop assuming that every connection will eventually collapse. Some people will stay, some people will hold you where you once braced for pain. Some people will offer presence without expectation. But to receive that, you have to show up as you are. Not as the version of you that feels safer in silence, but as the version that still hopes, that still aches, that still wants to be seen and chosen without performance. This is not about becoming fearless. It is about becoming honest, saying, I am afraid to be close because I was hurt when I was open, but I am also tired of feeling alone, and somewhere inside me, I still believe that love can be safe. Carl Jung said that the shadow holds the parts of us we've rejected, and often, one of those parts is the one that longs for connection, the one that wants to be touched without shrinking, the one that wants to speak without being silenced. The one that wants to be loved, not for what she hides, but for what she reveals. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. You don't have to be in control to be safe. You You don't have to hide your fear to be held. You only have to stay present with it. To stay instead of run. To soften instead of retreat. And slowly, you will notice something change. Your breath will deepen. Your chest will loosen. Your gaze will lift. You will begin to feel safe in moments that used to feel threatening. You will start to trust, not because nothing bad will ever happen, but because you finally trust yourself to stay whole, even if it does. You are not hard to love. You are just learning how to receive a kind of love that does not require sacrifice. You are not distant because you are cold. You are distant because no one ever stayed long enough to show you how to be held. But you are not the same person anymore. You are not trapped in the past. You are not doomed to repeat the same cycle. You are choosing again. You are rebuilding trust from the inside out. This is what healing looks like. Not dramatic, not sudden, but steady. A slow return to yourself. A soft release of the armor. A gentle permission to let someone in. Not because you are certain, but because you are willing. You are learning to receive love without shrinking. To speak without guilt. To feel without shame. To be seen without hiding. And that is the beginning of everything you've been missing. Because love was never meant to be earned through silence. It was meant to be shared through truth. And now, you push people away not because you are broken, but because part of you is still waiting to feel safe enough to stay open. That part is not weak. That part is sacred. That now, it's ready to breathe. You do not need to perform to be worthy of presence. You do not need to pretend you are unaffected just to be accepted. You are not difficult for feeling deeply. You are not a burden because your heart remembers what it means to protect itself. The world taught you to armor up, to stay strong, stay guarded, stay distant. But strength is not always in the wall. Sometimes it is in the softening, in the quiet choice to stay open even when fear still lingers in the background, in the courage to say, I want to connect even though it feels unfamiliar. You will notice that real connection doesn't ask you to be anything but honest. You will notice that people who are emotionally safe do not punish your pauses. They do not pull away when you need time. They do not expect you to give more than you can. They meet you where you are and honor your pace. This is the beginning of healing. When your inner world no longer prepares for abandonment. When love feels calm, not confusing. When you no longer need to explain every part of yourself just to be kept. You will not always feel this guarded. This fear will not stay forever. You are shifting, you are softening, you are remembering that connection is not something you have to survive. It is something you were always meant to feel. Let this be the moment you stop pushing people away just to feel safe. Let this be the moment you remember that your soul was never meant to live behind walls. You are safe now, safe to open, safe to be seen, safe to love.